You've tuned in to the Top 10 Garden Show with garden expert Ken Lain. Join the conversation daily as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Or visit face-to-face throughout the week where he can be found at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So every month I put together a companion plant grouping, things that look good together, that grow well together in that part of the yard, in the landscape for that month. So February, we've got a list, a lot of evergreen kind of stuff. So it's single leaf pinion pines, lily of the valley, beautiful, fragrant type of plant, junipers, cotoneasters, boxwoods, lots of evergreen stuff. But I thought I would focus on one specifically, pinion pines. So now we grow pinion pines. They're native here, especially in that chaparral. It's where the manzanitas, the Elaeagnus, some of those native privets are growing. This is where your pinion pines are growing. Now the native one should look luxurious, thick, full, luscious, almost tropical. I mean, it should be striking. If it's thin and wispy, there's a bug that can get on that particular plant. It's called pinion pine scale, a little tiny bug that crawls up, attaches itself to the needle. And if you look closely at the needle, if you've got a pinion pine in your yard, walk out there and take a look at the needle. And if it looks like someone's taken a number 2 pencil or if there's a little dot on that needle, several dots, that's the scale. So they actually attach themselves, pierce the needle, the pinion pine needle, and then it encrusts itself with a scale. That's the name, scale. So it protects itself from aphids and lacewings, all the predatory types of bugs as its defense. Well, they suck the plant dry till the needles literally starve to death and drop off. And so if this happens for several years, it could be thin and wispy. And so entire neighborhoods, the pinion pines have been taken out. The easiest way to solve this, you do not need to be an arborist. You don't need to spend $1,000 to have someone do this for you. You can do it yourself. There's a bottle called Tree and Shrub Drench. It's a liquid. You mix it up in your watering can, pour it right at the base of the tree. This is the month. So month of March, you're kind of doing it now through the end of March, just as the plant's starting to grow. One application treats it for the entire year, but the plant will absorb this through the can up underneath the bark, and it taints all the sap. And so it gets up into the needles, especially the new growth. And then it's kind of like an antibiotic for trees. And it just takes them right out. And if you can get rid of the bugs and fertilize it with that 744 all-purpose plant food, you're going to have magical growth this spring without bugs. There is a new variety called single leaf pinion pines. This is the one that they actually grow. They harvest the nuts off of. And so single leaf pinion pines, this is a Mediterranean looking plant, beautiful plant. It's got a thicker, chubbier needle. It's got more blue color to it. It's got I think it's hardier. The bugs don't seem to go after that one like it does our native one. And the key is you can get pinion pine nuts off their pine cones within just a few years. Whereas the native one, it's got to be like 20 years old before it's finally old enough to put pinion pine nuts on it. And then they aren't as good and juicy and as buttery as the single leaf pinion pine. We just had some beautiful ones come in the nursery. They're just striking. They're full. They're thick. You can tell they're cousins of our native one, and they're just as robust. But you're planting it for a thicker, easier care, buttery nut kind of pinion pine. That's the one you want to plant. If you're going to plant a pinion pine, I've got the native ones, but if it were me and I'm just talking to friends over the back fence, I would plant the single leaf pinion pine. Just a better tree, I think. A lot of evergreens came in this week. Lots of pinion pines, ponderosas, the Austrian pines, the Vanderwolfs. It's a very pretty kind of Eastern type of pine tree. Beautiful blue and silver color to it. It's striking. Now is your best selection. Now is your best time. Now is your best opportunity to plant. I would say now before those evergreens start to elongate. You want to buy your tree, get it in the ground so that it wakes up and starts to grow in its new home. And you just got a great selection right now. So nurseries, we've got a spring open house coming up. Is that March 16th? It's the weekend of spring. Spring open house. So we're stocking up like crazy. I mean, trucks, there's like 3 truckloads of plants came in, and we're just trying to power up 2 acres of plants in like several days before the 16th. It's like we feel the pressure. And so we are filling up. All the evergreens came in this week. And so there's lots to choose from. Every color, shape, size, variety, and they're all for here. This higher elevation of this central part of Arizona. They're made for us. And so now's the time to plant them. But look at, while you're doing that, the single leaf Pinion pine. I think it's a better choice. And the other companion plants that go with that. Lily of the valley, cotoneasters, boxwoods, hellebores. Got a beautiful hellebores are full bloom right now. They're glorious. Perennial that blooms in the winter. It's evergreen. It's got everything you could ever want from a flowering plant. And they're only available basically for this late winter, early spring timeframe. Then we run out. There's no more. Hellebores, or what's the other name for that? Linton rose is the other name. All right, that's it for this segment. Be right back with more garden tips, tricks, and garden hacks for your backyard right after this. Water's garden companion plants of February are Calgary carpet juniper, lily of the valley, pinion pines, and peony.
Your grandmother would fall in love with these larger peony with so many colors to choose from.
There's nothing like the enormous flowers to add stunning pops of color.
Endearing springtime blooms are more than fragrant with luscious double flowers.
Shop the most perennial peonies in Prescott by store or online at watersgardencenter.com.
The Top 10 Gardener, your source for timely garden advice seasonally correct for the garden. Guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.